walitupa mael kabla shika maem, tulipitia hell healing shika hem. Kufika hizi heights hawezi ku Everest, only God is above me, na pia cost of living, yes, naitanga Nairobics, venye haso zinagonga mawe, najua blue tick, na hapo ndio na colors, wewe, ni manailos na mabantu, lakini venye wanavuta, tunawaita Kushites. Nikiwa mtoto bakauliza nikigrow up nitabi what? Nikiwa mtoto bakauliza nikigrow up nitabi what? Total man, total man, total man, total man, total man, total man. Simanishi distance nikitaja mita, niki pull up hambogi match, increase content ya pori, nita flourish bila just challenge TikTok, kucross dress social, vixen kutingisha kwa vida na moshi zala. Tell us more than mangapi umegwara, mtaratara, lifestyles ya branch na tala. Siduju na dudia, sote tutanyuria, ukiwa next na kaburi, ni future unachungulia. Nikiwa mtoto bakauliza nikigrow up nitabi what? Nikiwa mtoto bakauliza nikigrow up nitabi what? Total man, total man, total man, total man, total man, total man. Vegas wanajua stake is high, vacation white beach Hawaii, mistakes zako zinakuwa chai, LOL banta za TL, uchi to Gucci, nivo kwa mapato ranking, 1 minute weni mwanaume ya kutishi, the next unazuyo another buildings Kepinski, ruma zimechacha, umechapa ama unachapa, pesa onge ama pesa ionge, the three wise men wananifuata ndio wa meet Christ. Nikiwa mtoto bakauliza nikigrow up nitabi what? Nikiwa mtoto bakauliza nikigrow up nitabi what? Total man, total man, total man, total man, total man, total man. Nikiwa mtoto bakauliza nikigrow up nitabi what? Nikiwa mtoto bakauliza nikigrow up nitabi what? Total man, total man, total man, total man, total man, total man.
A very good morning. Wednesday morning is 13th of March 2024. How are you doing wherever you are listening from all over the world? My name is Omonde Chuka and I'm your host today for the Power Morning Drive. Now, I don't know how many people are remembering, but we are on the week where WHO actually announced globally that there was COVID. And so today we are going to reflect in terms of where we have been from and where we envision to take our country, and just generally in terms of our relations with the rest of the world. But before we do that, do engage us on Twitter, X, on Power Morning Drive hashtag. My name is Omonde Chuka, and I'm going to play 2 songs before we get back onto the drive.
Alexis on the beat.
Weka mziki, leo nataka kucheza. Nina mabeshte ndani kwa party, tunataka kucheza. Shida ni mingi, leo nataka kucheza. You know, we just wanna party and enjoy. Leo lazima, nyama kwa wingi, ugali kidogo. Pombe kwa wingi, chesa kidogo. Mapenzi kwa wingi, chuki kidogo. Situzitoke mdogo. Before the sun fits on us, tujibambe pamoja. Before the sun fits on us, tulewe pombe pamoja. It's all about good vibes, and inshallah. Good vibes, and inshallah. Good vibes, and inshallah. It's all about good vibes, and inshallah. My best friend
a one every day we do it for the fun them. Sexy ladies in a the party, man about money and you know it's an anthem. Give thanks to the Most High. Every day a blessing you see and we multiply. Bigger picture now your good side. A bigger picture now your good side. Jaba kwa wingi ngwa kidogo, usiogope choma foto. Pigia Cindy, pigia Jojo, leo tunarudi soko. Cause I know you sacrifice, tujibambe pamoja. I know you sacrifice, situchome kimoja.
It's all about good vibes, and inshallah. Good vibes, and inshallah. Good vibes, and inshallah. It's all about good vibes, and inshallah. Nina mabeshte ndani kwa gari, kila siku tunapare. Nina mabeshte ndani kwa gari, kila siku si tunapare.
Nina mabeshte ndani kwa gari, kila siku tunapare. Nina mabeshte ndani kwa gari, kila siku tunapare.
Good vibes, and inshallah. Good vibes, and inshallah. Good vibes, and inshallah. It's all about good vibes, and inshallah. Mabeshte ndani kwa gari, kila siku tunapare. Mabeshte ndani kwa gari, kila siku si tunapare.
From sunrise to sunset, all day and night. Power Radio.
A very good morning. How are you doing? Ukisikiza mtaani, ukiwa kwa matri, unaenda job, ukiwa kwa gari yako, all over the world where you're listening from. This is Power Morning Drive and this is Omonde Chuka. I'm your host today. Now, I don't know how you are doing as you go to work. There's a lot of things going on in the country, but this week is a very important week in terms of reflection of our history. COVID-19 hits the streets from China, they say, from a flea market in China. No, I'm kidding. But this is the week that we commemorate 4 years since COVID. And a lot has happened. COVID reconfigured our story as a nation, our story as a global world. And we are looking in terms of reflecting the review mirror of the journey that we have taken since then. And you will join me shortly later as we look at what has happened, what we could have done better, what we did awfully wrong, and imagine the future in the event that something of the sort happens again. Now, we'll be looking on the dailies at news that are making on the headlines. And I see that on the headlines, the Standard on the front page, Ruto walks a tightrope on Haiti issue. Now, for most of you who do not know, the PM for Haiti actually resigned this week, or is it 2 days ago? Yes, 2 days ago. So this has really made or changed the dynamics of the Haiti issue in terms of the bilateral agreement that Haiti and the Kenyan government made through other international actors like the US. And page 2, we have Joey making the scenes again. Joey in the footsteps of murder as his family pleads for leniency. On page 3, we have the land registrar for Thika bought 25 million property but did not pay a penny. That's very funny, yeah? How do you buy stuff? Like you buy 25 million. If it's one bob, somebody might give you a discount. Like, you enter to now, but 25 meter. Bro. I mean, it's about time we look at public officials and in terms of their accountability when they use funds. And I think this is usually a loophole in terms of how government officials or those in critical government agencies get away with corruption, get away with very dubious and scandalous interactions when they make business deals that actually conflict their terms of engagement in their offices. And then we have 4. We talked about this on Monday, healthcare crisis, and it is looming because the medical interns are very short. There's a shortage of medical interns in the healthcare industry, particularly the public sector. And now they have issued a strike warning. I don't know when it should take place, but this is going to hurt public sector nonetheless. On page 5, we have counties dealt a blow as demand for 439 billion equitable share not allocated. Instead, the Commission for Revenue Allocation, CRA, proposes only 398 billion. As we know, the counties have actually been dealing with an amputated leg. They do not have enough funds to run most of their issues, most of their critical issues in terms of health, in terms of ECD, in terms of public service, in terms of salary and remuneration. And this is going to hurt them bad because they already are countries like Kericho, countries like Bomet, countries like Migori had a lot of issues in terms of their pay. So this is going to add to the injury that they already have. On page 6, we have security experts raise concerns over Haiti issue. Again, I tend to think this was a huge blunder from the current government. It was a huge issue because most of the G8, most of the developed nations have not made a single comment over the Haiti issue. And then it also puts us on an awkward situation. We are a black country in Africa. Haiti are like our cousins. You know, these are people who have contributed to the revolution, to, for example, in apartheid, in a lot of black consciousness, in a lot of black movements that have happened all over the world. They have been at the forefront in terms of highlighting the issues and in terms of also offering support. So us sending policemen, and we have our own issues currently, our security issues that have not been addressed. That's a huge burden on us. And then we have page 7, why ODM UDA cannot handle decades of long party polls nightmare. Obviously, we all know what happens during the primaries. And we all know that the primaries are a reflection of the election that happens nationally. That is the presidential and other cadres of the elections. So if we cannot properly manage primary elections within the parties, then obviously our democracy is in crisis. And then on the sports, Liverpool, an annoying pain for others in the EPL team. Liverpool has been giving a run, but I see Arsenal is back on the top of the table. Ndovu iko juu ya meza. I don't know kama meza inaweza shikilia weight. But and then again, AFC's 60th anniversary. AFC celebrated their 60th anniversary. On the Daily Nation, on the front page, we have reprieve over housing pay cuts after senators throw Kenyans under the bus. I told you the Senate isn't such a dog that just barks. So I don't know. They shot down the proposal that sought to cap housing levy at 2,500 per month. And now we are going to be paid 3% per month. You know, that's crazy, yeah? This is the house, the arm, the length of the government that is supposed to be protecting Kenyans in terms of oversight, in terms of auditing, in terms of saying, no, we need to listen to what Kenyans are saying, because the housing levy went through a huge challenge in terms of people voicing their opinions that they do not like how it is. In fact, it was a noble initiative, but many people thought that it could have been highlighted better. It could have been proposed, amended, or to reflect in terms of what Kenyans were saying. On page 2, we have planned to send Kenyan police to Haiti off track after the PM exits. I've talked about that. And then page 3, a very tragic story. Mom's pain after burying children killed by their dad. It's very sad. Mr. Kilel killed Lulu and the other child. I don't know the name. And it's just very sad. And this is a very common thing that is happening locally. I think recently there was a gentleman who went rogue on X, highlighting, I think he must have felt cheated on, and he went on rogue on Twitter, saying how he felt hurt by the wife. And after that, he killed the wife and killed himself. This is a very tragic story that highlights most of our gender issues. And we talked about it during our People's Dialogue Forum. And we were looking in terms of what do we do when we have issues within our relationships? Because I always believe that human beings are a product of relationships of whatever kind, within family, within intimate partners, within our workstations, within our society and communities. And obviously conflicts are about to rise. They rise every other time. And I think conflicts looked in a different angle is a way to outsource an amicable way of managing ourselves, an amicable way of seeing, I see it this way, I see it the other way. Oh, really? I think this dialogue is what makes life better, because we might not always agree on many issues, but I think that does not make us enemies of each other. And I think it's about time that men particularly learn to manage their anger. When it gets to a point of the precipice where you need to take somebody's life, you really need to reconsider your actions I think it would be better to walk away and go to your bros. Ulie, nilikuwa naona mahali Facebook watu walikuwa nasema kama ujui heartbreak ujai lia. Na wanaume bana, we lia, enda kwa mabros, enda kwa local ka joint pale, cheza, just do your stuff, but don't kill, don't be killing people. And, this is a very bad initiative. This is a very bad reflection of our society and how low we have sunk. And then on page 4, we see Mudavadi on why they settled on Raila for the AUC. And then on page 10, manufacturers protest new alcohol control measures. Of course, it's going to hurt the revenues, but we also have to be really honest because alcohol is wreaking havoc in our country. Alcohol is claiming the lives of Mavijana Abana. It's an issue. We can't just bury our heads. And I know Kamunyweso is something that's really nice. I mean, after a very long week of hard work and kuhustle pale, hapa na pale, you need to just chill down. But I think also you need to have quality staff. Like ukitoka Kamunyweso yako, like you just have a quality staff. Uchil mtaani, ama uende pale ka local joint. Unajua, unachukua kitu quality, kitu assured. Kitu haita kudhuru afya yako, ama haita kuua. So we really have to be honest. We really have to be honest about mental health and how it is pegged to drug abuse, especially amongst the youth, because these are the worst hit demographics in our country. And it's killing a productive part of our community. And then also, FKF delegates must fix ruined Kenyan football. Kenyan football is really suffering, man. I really miss the nostalgia of the derbies, the Tusker, the Gor Mahia versus AFC. You could see the air on a Saturday or on a Friday, or even it's on a weekend or on a weekday. You could feel the air. There's a bit of also patriotism because that's one of the roles of sports. And also we can't wish away because sports is a good employment and an exercise of skills and talents by youths. And so if we kill it, we are killing not just our football sector. We are killing dreams. We are killing something that brings us together and brings us joy. So I think it's about time we look at how the football industry in Kenya has been affected. And that's on the dailies today. I'm going to go back to music, but before I do that, we have...
From sunrise to sunset, all day and night. Power Radio.
I don't know what I've done.
Ngori lizimwa milioni sombili ya look the other way. Pori imeshiba inakuwa considered the ultimate power play juu noti na Simba kopi umeshika ya title si valley juu walisha grab land. Mkombozi aliyapishwa kafiga ukoloni inalipa so shamba yenye mgoso aliprefer imepigwa fence. Matemo na peace kwa grave juu leader aliturn against the very people alifight kuliberate akitry kuprotect family bees. Story unapiga ilifanya mtetezi wa haki akadisappear. Karaoke na miso huko utazimwa gunyayo na lead the way. Matiba ka flip udinga utafinywa bangs. Watachachisha kwa media leo kesho wakuforget. Kesi imetingwa jicho pevu go blind. Ever since status za mheshimiwa umeficha ulipitwa na news. Story samoja ni kiso ulipimwa ikajipa. Salamu kwanza mambo vipi? Mabrothers mko fiti. Shangazi jomba je rafiki. Wakenya kote mashabiki. Wakulima kwa shamba dereva manamba wazeki na mama tubonge. Msichana mfulana mabibi mabwana cha muhimu bana jamii songe. Ni sera ni atuna ni ajira ni hakuna ama serikali wajibiki. Onyango Fatuma Bakari Maimuna kilio majonzi na dhiki. So chapo dondo maji glass. Kikombe ya majani hapo sawa. Kichapo mamodo tanas. Vivo Pawa.
We come from the ghetto, everything happening Charlie's terrible. From Monday to Sunday ni ngumu nipate nuchungu na let it go. We never settle, hustling kila pande na jeshi home. kidogo napata nasema asante kwa Mungu alete more. It's very pain, me and my people we are struggling every day. Na malipo jajiko kutiko anataka nimtumie dipo ndo wachoche case ngumu kuelevate, but we never give up, tunapambana kila siku hatutawe give up. Mchana mpaka usiku kutafuta buda, makesi mingi mpaka zimeshinda bensuda, machungu kila muda.
Walikuja na katiba wakadai hii ndio tiba, wakasema ni muujiza na obvious sadaka lazima wataitisha. Sheria inakata mbele na nyuma, watu inakata na oni ya huruma. Wamekula nyama wamebakisha mifupa, Wanjiko kenguru wapambane na mifupa. Time zetu zimefika, buda atakulalisha.
Wewe ujue ni youth so tuanze kuchachisha.
Kazi ni kwetu sasa.
Ama tukoseza sapa.
Juu tumechoka sana.
For real na hao ma corrupt leaders.
Ukabila tukiacha.
Hapo ndio tutaanza.
Ishamba na jua ni kubwa.
Ni si tunafaa kupanda.
Rauka uvunje kitanda.
Pamoja tu rise up ndio
Kenya izidi kutamba.
From sunrise to sunset, all day and night. Power Radio.
It's the legend of the troubadour. It's the legend.
Even if the sun don't shine, I don't mind. I just light a candle. Even if my plans fall through, I hold on 'cause I like to battle. Even when it all falls down, down, down. Oh, yeah. I keep my head high and wear my crown, crown, crown. Oh, yeah.
All the things we've come to know, they have all been done before. Pay your respect to the greats. We stand on the shoulders of giants who have suffered for things we take for granted today. Though I make it look easy, it will never be easy. Put your work and do the time, everything will be just fine, and let the Lord do the rest.
Even if the sun don't shine, I don't mind. I just light a candle. Even if my plans fall through, I hold on 'cause I like to battle. Even when it all falls down, down, down. Oh, yeah. I keep my head high and wear my crown, crown, crown. Oh, yeah.
Big and I rebuke you, get thee behind. I have to keep my focus and clear my sight. Self-doubt and depression stay out my mind. I'm the legend of the troubadour. Lo and behold, there's an awesome sight of a man who was bold and he paid the price. Now the bones of his enemies trail behind. It's the legend of the troubadour.
Even if the sun don't shine, I don't mind. I just light a candle. Even if my plans fall through, I hold on 'cause I like to battle. Even when it all falls down, down, down. Oh, yeah. I keep my head high and wear my crown, crown, crown. Oh, yeah. Oh, do I struggle? Yes, I do. Get discouraged, yes, I do. But I'll fight till I break
Yeah, it's the legend of the troubadour. Hey, come on. It's the legend of the troubadour. It's the legend of the troubadour.
From sunrise to sunset, all day and night. Power Radio.
Good morning from where you're listening to all over the world. This is Power Radio and this is the Morning Drive. You can talk to us on Facebook, on Twitter at hashtag Power Morning Drive. My name is Omonde Chuka and I'm your host today. That's Legend by Tetu Shani and Sage. There's a very beautiful music there. It kind of reminds me of how one thing has been said about, a lot of things have been said about Kenyans. And usually what inspires me the most is how resilient we can be. A spirit of a warrior. We are warriors. Sisi ni mashujaa bana. Like if you look at where we have been from, kuna vitu atunge imagine tunge survive. You look at the last 5 years, they've been brutal, man. Brutal for a lot of people, especially when we look at the youth, because I'm particularly very enthusiastic about youth affairs. And I know the youth affair has been used by politicians and governors for their own gain, because it's always very lucrative during electioneering period, but hardly ever after that. So I think that looking in terms of the strides that we have made over the years, particularly in line with COVID-19, when it was announced on 11th of March in 2020, looking at the strides we have made, man, looking at how resilient. I know we've taken a lot of hits, and there was a time when you looked at the news, you would feel the anxiety, like you would be next. And I remember, I don't know where you were when COVID-19 was announced, or the first few weeks when we were seeing coffins dropping in Italy and the US are going down the drain, and China was just a messed up place. I don't know where you were. I don't know what you can reflect back and say, nilikuwa kwa hii matri, ama nilikuwa kwa hao yangu, nilikuwa nashughulika mtoi wangu, ama nilikuwa napeleka mtoi chuo. Ama where were you? What was your headspace when that happened? The immediate effect of that announcement. How did it affect you? Before we come back to how it affected our nation. I can remember particularly because I think I had unplugged from the city and I was in the village with my grandmother. And we had a lot of our family members, almost half of them, very far away. You cannot give them a hug. You can only see them via digital devices. And that actually made life a bit bearable, because sometimes we have to give a pat on the back on technology. Sometimes technology has a lot of negative effects, but then again, this is the one thing that actually it really came through in terms of building online communities, in terms of highlighting issues that are affecting the world globally, in terms of the creative industry using that particular moment to create stuff and share them via, I think that is when the live sessions were more. There's a lot of video creation. That was a lot of the place where TikTok actually made a huge boom. And the creative industry in Kenya actually made a good use of that period. So do talk to us on Twitter, on X, on #PowerMorningDrive. Tell us, where were you during that time? What do you remember about the first initial month after COVID-19 was announced globally by the WHO? I'll be taking 2 songs before we come back, and then we proceed with our discussion today.
From sunrise to sunset, all day and night. Power Radio.
Mama leo kalondo ongegi manyalo timoga poka yudo mama leo kalondo wololore mama yeah. My lover, where you at? Have you found a better half? Je unapewa a better life? Tokose pode luorori Koinange Street Diponi you don't visa Idingambo Ama uko kazi Kule Dubai Ongei Mama ongei Hey ongei Adundo ongei Ongei gimanya loti moga Ongei mama Pokaneno Ola wechero olai Ongege manyalo Kinyoro mama Pokayudo mama Koyonega mama nai Doge pacho Doge pacho Setu choki Doge pacho Nyamwalo doge pacho Come back Kwai mama Doge pacho Dogi mama sina mani. Ruge pacho. Rudy, Ruge pacho. No bora chiwo sira wende agwonyora yagita gwonyora parola chalo jamide krema manani achandora kangolo wana chandora midiro biro nega onge gimanyalo onge kionge adundo kionge onge mama Kanyalo, mama. Dugi, parola, mama. Onge, manalo, timoga. Dongo pokulo, dongo pokulo, Dugi, mama. Onge, manalo. Get away again. Just I'm a bit on ega. Giluro. Onge, manalo, timoga. Kamali adundo mayo mama ongeki manyalo timoga dugeda lawa adundo kionge mama doge pacho doge pacho zeto chopo doge mama nani doge pacho suna bironega doge pacho koyo nega mama doge pacho doge pacho doge mama sina mani doge pacho come back to me baby doge come back doge pacho oh mama yeah.
From sunrise to sunset, all day and night. Power Radio.
The boy's mother, burdened by grief, believes that justice for your sin is far-fetched.
But what options does Kenya have?
I think the public should know our politicians for who they are.
We must protect the social fabric of our society, which is keeping our people gainfully employed and engaged.
So when you tell them to stay at home, not to go to work, I don't know what you're telling them.
Skiza hizo cracks kwa ukuta ikibomoka, empire mzima ikiporomoka, Marcus aliprofesai watu watatoroka na hakuna pa kuepea. Skiza hizo sauti za cracks, iyo ice ikibomoka na weather mbaya kwa focus na inago viral kahoma. City iko under lockdown, world yenyewe iko out of focus na inastaga iko soba, juu iko in la coma, iko kwa seizure, form yake ni epileptic, ni pandemic, ni size ya epic. In Italy wame run out of coffins, unaweza get killed juu ya sneezing au coughing. Ilikuwa ni refugees hawafai kukam open arms kwenye border, sahi ni cruise ships za Madon hazipokelewi juu ya homa. City kwa under siege, unaweza uza ring ya for a donut, itabidi Middle East wame ceasefire wachekomba. Nani anarchy kama gava inaweza release ma monster kutoka jela. Skiza hizo trema underground ikiporomoka, anko toma na ugopa juu superpower pia wanakopa. Sicknesses haziwezi pona juu disease imefanya hakuna biz, juu ni lockdown, juu ni world under siege. Economy yenyewe imesota na watoi wenu hawezi soma, na tuwezi ingia kulima bila kitu kwenye stomach, na kila kitu tulipanda imshavamiwa na malocust.
Alone. I am here with you, so please don't be scared. You are not alone. I am here with you, so please don't be scared.
For food niliongea na cook akaongeza kuku, mtush tumbukiza mguu na dai kudishku. Inaonekana kumetokea ina coop, stoki kwa room so unaongezea maomena stoke hoop, supu na mbustu. Mabutu wametokea na tools, guns na rungu kunikosea my high, piston chrome na blue moon, tunaongea revolution juu tunaongea the truth, tukiongea na mayouth wanatokea na kulut. Blaster doom ikitokea kama flu, napotezwa 6 foot na kuomboleza ni marufuku, ulugeteana through handshake josai dude, unatumia mguu plus kubusu ni tabu, ni kubaya arif wanaongea do or die, itabidi umongea na Christ atongea na Mungu. Get clues uzinot na make news na ni hot, ikitokea ndani ya booth jotorea juni wo.
I am here with you, so please don't be scared. You are not alone. I am here with you, so please don't be scared. Hey.
Haki iwe ngao, kafyu sawa, lakini polisi wache madharau.
From sunrise to sunset, all day and night. Power Radio.
My name is Omonde Chuka, and I'm your host today for the Power Morning Drive. Sway tense. That's Kitusiwa and Roba of Kalabashaka, yes, with pandemic. And it's I think at the onset of that song, the introduction of that song is a sample by, I think, a civilian and the former president, His Excellency the Uhuru Kenyatta, where he says that we have to have a gainful empowerment of our citizens so that we can move forward. And the other civilian is saying that kama atwezi wapea job, how do you expect them to how do you tell them to stay at home? And I think if there is one thing that has tested our vulnerability over the years, besides, of course, post-election violence, famine that we've seen over the years, water issues and crises, governance and all that, it is COVID-19. It actually exposed where we are most vulnerable. And in terms of just the structures that we have, the institutions that we have of governance, and especially our psyche as a nation. What do I mean with that, or by that? You see, there is something that affects you when you see it. Somebody amekuchapa na rungu kama vile wanachapaga maumbo ya rungu kwenye kwa funeral. You can see them whimpering and getting away, but if there is something you do not see, you do not know where it came from, but it is affecting your life and it is putting you on hold, like literally. And you see, for the very instant weeks of COVID-19, there was a lot of hesitation. People were like, hiyo ni kitu ya China, itaenda. And watu walipuuza sana because it is not something we are used to. We are used to real physical dangers. When somebody amekuperemba pale wallet mtao, ama kuna mtu anapigwa na mob justice mahali, ama politician ameenda na do fulani, that is a physical, because you tend to know where it is coming from. But when it is something that is foreign, something that is very minute, but it's putting the whole world on its knees, we were tested, our vulnerability. And I'm going to start off with, because ideally a nation stands, or a community stands, on a structure. We are named Kenyans because this is our country, Kenya, and we have to be patriotic. We have a duty to it. But the reason why that is so is because we had structures and institutions. We had a government in place. And we tend to looking back in terms of their response, in terms of how regional cooperation came in terms of how knowledge sharing between these institutions of governance, between countries, responded to the COVID-19 crisis. And we see that we never did so well. And I'm particularly very interested because, one, our economic rights were hugely violated. And for a country that is suffering from a more than 12% unemployment rate, if you added the burden of COVID-19, you can imagine how much suffering Kenyans endured. And I don't think we handled it properly, because when you look at, for example, KEMSA being at the center of corruption, and when they were procuring PPEs, for example, number one, when they were supposed to be paying essential service workers, that is the nurses, the doctors, those that actually run the country. Without them, we cannot actually have a country moving forward. They are the gears of our economy. They are the gears of who we are. And they offer very essential support services to our country. And we also look at the killings and the violence, particularly from police. And this is especially during the time when Nairobi was carved out of the country. And we had only movement going on elsewhere, but within Nairobi, we just like an island. And you see, Nairobi is like the political hub, the capital hub of East and Central Africa, if save for our country's capital. So if we have Nairobi carved out of the equation, the suffering that was there was untold. I remember people talking about moving from Machakos and you want to go to Western, or you want to go to the coast from, let's say, Nakuru, and you had to round all over, or you had to pay bribe, because there are a lot of people who were paying bribe to pass through, even though it was outlawed, even though it was illegal to do so. And there was also a lot of violence that was happening at night. There was a lot of rape for women and girls, and there was a lot of desperation during that time. So we're looking in terms of what was the response of our government. Could they have done better? Could they have, because a lot of money was wasted through pilferage, through KEMSA buying stuff which are not there. For example, there was air that was bought, which is not used. And it is very funny when they always say that the test of somebody is how they treat someone else when they are down, when the other person is down. So we are down as a country, but you could see there was lack of empathy from the government. There was lack of initiative, personal agency from the government, or those who were involved, or those who had the authority to act on our behalf. So there's money imetengwa kando to actually respond to COVID-19, to buy PPEs, to buy medicine, to buy the vaccine, to keep our lights moving and lights on. But this money was eaten. And there are a lot of people, I think there was a lot of headlines during that time of COVID billionaires or COVID millionaires, people who all of a sudden, on a night's wake, they are now millionaires out of the blues. And this is government money. This is money that was supposed to have done a certain duties, done a certain job of making our lives better during COVID-19. And we also look in terms of what are the policies of the government when it comes to response. And I'm not kidding, man. This is something very serious. Recently, there was a fire in Embakasi. And if you look at it very keenly, first of all, the way this establishment got their license, it's not clear. It's very unclear, and it's very dubious. There's no proper accountability of who actually gave out the license to this establishment, because it is a gas and LPG station. This is a very sensitive issue, and you do not actually just establish it within a residential area. That's number one. And even if you were to have it in an industrial area, you need to have proper checks and balances. You need to have proper safety and security concerns when you're establishing such a business, because any mistakes and mistakes are very risky. It could change the whole scene by a blink of an eye. And so we had a very poor response in terms of emergency. And this goes back to how further a stretch, if you look at our history as a country, how we have always responded to drought, how we have always responded to floods. There's usually this jingle that goes along. DJs use it wanapenda kuitumia sana. Serikali saidia. There's a woman from Kano in Ahero who went viral by how she cried out to the government. And this is something that has happened year in, year out in Kano. Kano is not very far from our place in Nyakach. It's just about 20 minutes drive. And floods are a perennial issue over and over again. It makes stops when politicians are campaigning, when NGOs are diagnosing the issues, but very little in terms of how to alleviate the situation. So we're looking in terms of our response as a country. Have we been honest about the funds we keep aside, or the structures, or the training we have for disaster management and emergency response? And we find that we have not done so well in terms of that. And we look in terms of also what is our future when we look at emergency response? Because even recently there was a plane crash, and further along the month there was also a time in the JKIA where the generator just went off, and our national airport went black, and there was no accountability whatsoever. So if such critical institutions can go without a proper emergency response for blackouts or power outages, then you can imagine the common wananchi at the grassroots. What are they feeling? How do they, how helpless can they be when such situations befall them? And I think the government needs to do a lot in terms of how, first of all, how to set aside an institution and monies that are actually supposed to be dedicated to emergencies, to dedicated to because tragedies can happen all the time, even when we have put into place strategies that are supposed to help us alleviate such situations. And then also we look at the one thing that I also came out very well during that time is how the globalized world can be affected. And we live in a world where we celebrate how interconnected we are because we are a humanity. We celebrate that somebody in Makueni or somebody in Kilifi or somebody in Malaba can receive an M-Pesa message and it will change their lives. We celebrate the fact that we can come together when there is a crisis or somebody needs a medical fund set aside, and we come together to fundraise for these people. When somebody has befallen, has had a tragic accident, when somebody is going through a crisis on the personal level, and we come together as a country, we come together as a society. And this can also extend globally, but we also see that there is danger in terms of how the global supply chain can be disrupted. First of all, we look at our relations with Russia and Ukraine. We realize that key food security is tied to our Russian and Ukraine relationship. Why do we say that so? Because one, Kenyans take a lot of wheat products, from bread to chapahi farm, from all that. And then we also have fertilizer, which also contributes to our agricultural sector that comes from Russia. And very many other key agricultural products and economic products that actually run our country. So during COVID, we actually realized how the global supply chain was actually disrupted. And now we do not have that self-reliancy. And when we realize we are actually naked, that at home we actually do not have our capacity. We have land that is fallow, we have land that is underutilized, and our produce does not meet the needs of our country. We have a lot of mouths to feed. We have the capacity, we have farmers, we have crops that can do well within different regions of our country, but we are not utilizing it so well. And this exposed us really badly because now we could not respond to the very fundamental human right of food security. And usually they say when somebody controls what you eat, then they control you. And this is something that has happened over and over in our country, where we go begging for food or where we import sugar that is actually adulterated and it's affecting us and it's unhealthy to our people. And so when we have such vulnerabilities, we realize that yes, the global world poses a lot of advantages when we see how we can relate diplomatically, when we see how we can share knowledge between each other, when we see foreign direct investment coming into a country. But then again, something that happens in China could as well, because China is an important global partner with Kenya. And so whatever happens there, if it is of magnitude such as COVID, it would definitely affect us. And if we do not have mechanisms at home or strategies to actually help us cushion, because the thing is, to be honest, we cannot just generally exist as an island. We can't do that. We've seen that in Zimbabwe when there's a lot of sanctions happening there. And this is such an imperialistic view of actually how the West and the developed nations actually put a peg or just generally economic warfare against poor nations, and how they use their economic instruments of power to put these countries towing into line. And so if we do not have our capacities locally, then we are at a bad situation and we cannot address our issues more amicably and more responsibly. So we're going to look in terms of also how the diplomatic ties between... Remember, there was a time when there was a lot of travel bans. I've always wondered why the US is always very keen on making travel bans announcements against Kenya. But when it comes to them, we are very reluctant about it. And that actually shows that we are not equal partners in the international system. And that's something that actually we need to really address honestly. Yes, we may not be at the same power historically. We may not be there in terms of our power as a country, in terms of our balances. But I think basic dignity is very important. If you consider yourself a better country, then you have better institutions of governance and democracy. Then you are not supposed to use that against countries that are emerging, countries that are still needing a lot of guidance and encouragement from you. And I think during that time, we saw a lot of issues being raised in terms of passports, number one. Even within our African nations, we realized that some countries were very fast to close their borders. Some countries were very fast to say, so and so, you cannot come to our country anymore because you are worst affected. Instead of saying, this country is our brother, this country is our African brother, in the spirit of Pan-Africanism, how can we help them become better? How can we help them respond to the crisis that they are facing? And I think this is some honesty that we need in terms of our diplomatic relations, in terms of tapping into the potential and the opportunities and the issues that are rising out of our globalized world. When I come back after 2 songs, we'll talk about the rural-urban dynamics. And this is something that's very important. I'll talk about a very personal issue to me, and I think something that will be very relatable to a lot of people out there listening. Pawa Radio, this is Pawa Morning Drive, and my name is Umondi Chuka.
Hakuna job, tunang'ang'ana mali tuko, hivyo ndivyo kuko. Lini tuna move on, lini tutagrow, tuna fall.
Yeah.
Tunang'ang'ana mali tuko,
kweli Afrika,
hivyo ndivyo kuko. Lini tuna move on, lini tutagrow.
Hey, sioni vitu zikienda right, ninateseka kwanza sahi vile vitu tight. Nikiwa mtoi dream yangu ilikuwa bright, sahi ni karate mi na life to fight. Hakuna haja ya kudanganya na bonga truth, ni dare to live kwanza mtaa ukiwa youth. Wanasema ni sisi drugs tuna abuse, pesa tukipata bado tuna misuse. Maisha yetu imesetiwa kama egg, na tuko kwa risk tumehangiwa kama peg. My youth kwa dead si ndiyo tuna lead, hatuna kazi ama nisi wataki to feed. Seti chuo ni sisi tulikata kuread, ni vile maparo aki walikosa fee. Saimta ni extrajudicial, hadi kutembea unajipata mali crucial.
Tunang'ang'ana mali tuko, hivyo ndivyo kuko. Lini tuna move on, lini tutagrow, tuna fall. Tunang'ang'ana mali tuko, hivyo ndivyo kuko. Lini tuna move on, lini tutagrow.
Kuna kazi ni kusaka kazi, daily tuna hustle na to get easy ganji. Kazi kwa vijana imegeuka ya mabuda, lazima wanijue ndo waniconsider. Nikiingia kahaba wanaanza kunijudge, sikupenda kwangu mina dai pate lunch, cause nikika kwa nyumba nitalala njaa. Ndo maana mitaani kuna wezi wamejaa, wamama wajane wameishi wana hope juu job jo hakuna, wameshindwa na kukop. Watoi waendi chuo wamelemewa na fee, rent mekuwa ngori ge chakula pia nizi. Na notion wako nayo ni mademo wafai kazi ati kushinda kwa nyumba ndo kazi natufaa. Na kama sina pesa basi siwezi get kazi, nipe mimi nikupe tu negotiate kiasi.
Hakuna job, tunang'ang'ana mali tuko, hivyo ndivyo kuko. Lini tuna move on, lini tutagrow, tuna fall. Tunang'ang'ana mali tuko, hivyo ndivyo kuko. Lini tuna move on, lini tutagrow.
From sunrise to sunset, all day and night. Pawa Radio.
Na bado ndile mtaa inaweza kubreak. The the city, within a city. In case I'm new to 1960.
Na rep Nyando hapo karibu na dhawabu, ndio maana nasimama imara juu nimeona mwangaza. Watu wako chuo si wa Gaza, wametoka bondeni na matopeni. Shughuli yoyote ukiopea wana top any.
Kayole ghetto me love you Janus. World government nothing else makes sense. Graffiti kali matri wizi bunduki uhai. Lucky
Kayole ndele mtaa, ukidai mali kuna mapena mra. Ukidai kushikisha kuna jaba na mira. Tembea kwetu uone kila mali tunira.
Mtani clean, bogi ya gabe kwa sim. Graffiti nice, big up for henga na team. Nipate esto na pandisha steam. Kijana wa Kayole last man live the dream.
Tai nafanya na feel safe, si nyumbani we don't need any safe. Walishindwa kustana sisi, na daily God hustana mtando. Maana ina drop kama raindrop.
Piga mboka, saka keroma, kuomoka, ukiniona na nisonga. Kayole ni guardian ya hao ma-angel. Culture ni ile ya mapinchi, kuwa mapati. Tuko forward to pinpoint the prime city. Kama mwamba tuko hapa, timu akiuza wheel. Mama na uza uchi, basi ni fiti. Na through yata, see power rising back. 2254.
Never worry in the streets, I got your back. I let it up in the streets. When we stand, repping the city to the front and back. Representing Kayole, the home of stars.
Come back na ingine moto yoyole. Uku ukisikika ukisema mad zetu si kali utekelewa njogoma. Mayouth wanatambua Kratos. Cheki vile wanapenda soul na passion. Ukisahau kuitisha change donda wa sultan atapita nayo. Uliza Chevi, utasikia vile la Casa de Papel inatesa kwa stage. Hizi nganya ni za mabazu. Kama ufiki bei, unaweza trace ligi yako Mudhurwa.
From sunrise to sunset, all day and night. Power Radio.
Unasikiza kutoka mtaa gani, where you listening from? That is a very beautiful song actually tributing Kayole. Oyole, watu wa Kayole bana. Just give us a shout out at Power Morning Drive hashtag on Twitter X. We were going on with a conversation about reflecting on COVID-19. This is 4 years since COVID-19 came into existence. Is it existence really? Yeah, something like that. And we're looking in terms of where have we come from? Where do we want to go? And what lessons or insights can we pick from those years that put us on lockdown, put us on our knees, tested our vulnerability as a strength, and shared a lot of, or exposed our leadership structure and views in our country. And before that, I was talking about the rural-urban dynamics. One thing is very common about many Kenyans who live in town. Made, okay, wale wako na mamade, our mother is a very, very important part of our community. You know, if you have a mother, do you shout made kwanza na acha kushout out kwanza. Tuma ka mpesa na ya kutoa. Sindio? It's najua month ni mbaya, vitu ziko sawa, lakini ukituweka 100 hapo, should be very proud. Trust me. So one thing that's very, very common amongst many Kenyans living in urban areas is how they receive a lot of food from mushadha, from home. Madana kuwekea pale kwa parcel anakuambia enda uchukue, nimetuma asubuhi, by jioni zitakuwa zimefika. It's very common amongst many Kenyans. Na hata wakienda home for during December holidays, or wakienda tu home wakipata maybe chance kiasi waende home, madana anawekea pale kuna mihogo, kuna mahindi, unakuja kama food security iko sawa pale kwa household. So this is something that I realized during COVID-19, where first of all food was very expensive, number one. And I remember the hassle of people sweeping everything off the shelf of supermarkets. Somebody goes na anaika unga yote got trolley, and the other person just has nothing else to pick, and it was very tragic because now when people are in crisis, usually it not only tests the survival for the fittest maxim, but it also tests how empathetic can you be to the next person. Because we realize that if you had money, then most likely it was only useful to an extent, but beyond that, money couldn't help so much. It was the empathy. It was how we showed up for each other. I remember many people lost their jobs and people would call each other, mazee sina food. Na mtata kutumia pale food alikuwa ameweka mahali, anakutubia pale kwa nduthi, and you would get the food for the day. And people, as much as movement was also restricted, there are people who live very close to each other, and the shared community, the shared love. There's a lot of conversations that happened in between. The phone calls, the many phone calls that people made back home. Unaendeleaje? Najua saizi hamwezi move. So there was a lot of love that came in out of there. And this is something that we rarely give props to. The people in our rural sectors. We always just see them only once in a while, maybe once in a year. We always just call them. When we receive a phone call from them, we just start feeling grumpy. Oh, nani wana nataka do, antakuntoanisha. But sometimes how they impact us, how they support us, do not always seem very apparent until COVID happened. And then you realize that they actually perform a very important function. And because Nairobi's food basket is rarely within Nairobi, that's to be honest. We get food from as far as Kinangofu, Kabeji. We get food from Nakuru, we got food from Nanyuki, we get food from Kiambu County, we get food from as far as Nyeri and Muranga. All these places contribute. Kisii County, very far, but still very important in terms of how food security in Nairobi. So we realize that if we do not empower rural productivity, then we are in a bad space. And because we only tend to see them as valuable when we need something from them, when we can get a benefit from them. But when we need to empower them, that's where we draw the line. I think this is why devolution has to be protected by all means, because it's one of the ways of addressing this disparity. That if you can empower local production, if we can protect them, if we can take care of primary healthcare, because if a farmer is sick, then that means that productivity is actually endangered. And we realize that farmers were worst hit because most farmers, first of all, they do not have insurance coverage, number one. And then number two, most farmers do go through a lot of losses when, for example, climate change happens and there is a lot of losses in terms of their production. When they do not do so well, when there is drought, when the rain, because our agriculture is mostly rain-fed. And if there is no enough rainfall during the season, that they are going through a lot of losses. When the prices of fertilizer goes up and production and labor goes up, we cannot do so well as a country. So if we look at how the urban-rural dynamics, the relationship between these two entities or these two areas or sectors of our economy and our country can be perfected, then we can move forward to a country that is better, a country that is mindful, a country that is secure and self-reliant. And I don't know how COVID-19 affected you and your rural folk. A lot of people had to move back home. I remember even from within my own circle, a lot of people, including myself, had to move back home to settle or start life. Remember, COVID-19 reset, it was a reset button for a lot of people. If you lose your job, and you see sometimes employers, I know a lot of employers got a lot of backlash when in terms of relieving people of their duty, because even them, they could not be able to pay employees in time or even enough money. So they had to let go of a lot of people. There were a lot of people that were retrenched, a lot of people lost their jobs. And now if you can't pay your rent, what else are you left with? It's either you go to a less, you go to a house that is paying less rent, or you go back home. So a lot of people moved back home in the rural areas, and some of them have stayed there since then. Some of them came back when things got better along the years. But we cannot underestimate or we cannot fail to recognize or acknowledge how rural sector or the rural economies actually contribute to the betterment of our urban areas and how they actually support us more mindfully. I'll have a song or two before I come back and proceed with our discussion today. This is Power Morning Drive, and my name is Omondi Chuka.
ningepotea nisipatikane, lakini Mungu halali, nasema kweli Mungu halali, Mungu halali. Si lazima unikumbushe kuwa mimi mwenye dhambi, najua tena sana najijua tena sana Si lazima useme kuwa mnyonge kweli hana haki, naona kila siku, tunaona kila siku Kwa neema nasimama, ile mwamba ni salama, binadamu hanitishi, natembea kwa imani Kwa neema nasimama, ile mwamba ni salama, binadamu hanitishi, mimi natembea kwa imani. Nimepitia majanga makubwa, lakini Mungu halali, ningepotea nisipatikane, lakini Mungu halali, nasema kweli Mungu halali, Mungu halali, ashajionyesha, anajionyesha, atajionyesha, ashajionyesha, atajionyesha.
Hanging in the hustle of life as I become something much more than I could try. Tried in the shadow of death, though I arose and I have lived beyond my man. Though you beat me down, though you kick me down, though you beat me down, though you kick me down.
Majanga makubwa, lakini Mungu halali, ningepotea nisipatikane, lakini Mungu halali, nasema kweli Mungu halali, Mungu halali, ashajionyesha, anajionyesha, atajionyesha, ashajionyesha, atajionyesha.
From sunrise to sunset, all day and night. Power Radio.
Soul generation, no baby. Suda. I love you like the sunshine in the morning when I'm yawning, like the scent of love ukipika chai ya majani na mandazi. Such a lovely way to start my day. We getting high as I make you call my name. Tukisikiza ngoma za Bob Marley. Napenda vile una smile usisare, nipatie zeze nikuimbie. I wrote a song na nataka usikie. If you let me sing for you, darling, darling, I will sing your favorite song, because I'm feeling lucky to have you dance along. Oh love, darling, darling, I will sing your favorite song, because I'm feeling lucky to have you dance along to your favorite song, baby. Your favorite song, to your favorite song, my love. Your favorite song, oh yeah, yeah. To your favorite song, oh yeah, yeah. Your favorite song, to your favorite song, my love. Your favorite song, oh yeah, yeah. To your favorite song. So let me take you out, treat you like a queen. The sun is out to bless your melanin. To Wingia town, I will show you around. Baby, slow down, let me show you to my world. Such a lovely day with my lady. Oh, many just love is what I'm feeling. I bless the day when you came my
promise kuwa nitakuenzi. Baby time imefika for 20 and I can see you back to my senses. So won't you let me sing for you? Darling, darling, I will sing your favorite song because I'm feeling lucky to have you dance along. Oh love, darling, darling, I will sing your favorite song because I'm feeling lucky to have you dance along to your favorite song, baby. Your favorite song, to your favorite song, my love. Your favorite song, oh yeah, yeah. To your favorite song, oh yeah, yeah. Your favorite song, to your favorite song, my love. Your favorite song, oh yeah, yeah. To your favorite song. You're my favorite song. You're my favorite bomb. You're my favorite song, my love. You're my favorite song, yeah. And I'm feeling lucky, so damn lucky. Yes, I'm feeling lucky to have you dance along to your favorite song, baby.
Your kind of music, all day, all night, right here on your only station, Power Radio.
All right, a very good morning to you, our listeners from all over the world, wherever you are listening to. This is Power Morning Drive, and my name is Umonde Chuka for Power Morning Show. So we were talking about COVID-19 and how we reflect on the years that have passed by, whatever we have done better, what we could improve on, and the future of our response to pandemics or emergencies or tragedies that befall us as a humanity. And we were talking about key issues and how these affairs have been affected or impacted by COVID-19. And moving forward, something interesting besides the rural urban dynamics is mental health and grief. This is something that is very close to me because I have been close. It's a personal. It's a cause that is very personal to me as a person, and as Power 254, we take pride in highlighting issues that affect our society and community in terms of strengthening us, in terms of capacity building, in terms of putting the conversation at the center. Because for a long time, mental health and grief are taboo topics. Many people struggle with whatever weight they carry by their own selves. Many people are facing stigma. Many people do not have access to medical services, mental health services. Many people struggle with self-stigma because they do not know that if I talk about this, then it's okay, then I might get help out there. And one thing that was very apparent during COVID-19 is how, number one, we needed to do better in terms of mental health care, but also how our stories do matter. Because I remember this is the time people took to their phones. There was a lot of time in our hands. There was a lot of time because for a lot of people, we hardly spend time with our loved ones. But now you are in a lockdown and you have your family and you stay there, clock in, clock out. You're with your families, you're with your kids. And then now you have to confront them in a very intimate setting. You have to know that your kid behaves this way, because without that, you'd be going to work every other day in the morning and coming in the evening. You have very little time with them. You have very little time with your wife or husband, or with your family, or with your siblings. But now COVID put us together in a setting where we have to understand each other. We have to learn the skills of negotiating, the skills of living together in a co-shared space. And this is an extrapolation into the society, because we don't live, like I said earlier, in an island. We share amenities, we share roads, we share schools, we share workstations, we share ideas. And sometimes we disagree very vehemently on these issues, but does not make us actually enemies of each other. It makes us people with diverse opinions, people with different perspectives, people who want better for each other. Because when we put together our differences, when we learn to tap into the differences, when we learn to tap into not just our similarities, but how diverse we can be as a people, how different we can be, different colors, different tribes, different genders, different backgrounds, this is what strengthens us as a people. This is what makes us better. This is what adds color to the uniqueness of our being. And during COVID-19, many people really suffered. I'll start from the creative industry because Pawa is at the forefront of championing the creative industry, the creative voices, just highlighting the visuals, the art, the music, the projects that are ongoing, the events that are ongoing currently in Nairobi and all over the nation. And so for a lot of creatives, this was a really testing moment for them. First of all, there are no gigs because people don't go for events, number one. Two, because the gig economy is very prone to vulnerabilities. Any slight change in terms of social events, in terms of economic empowerment, when people don't have money, it means they can't buy your stuff. It means they can't come to events. It means they cannot support you in the way that you need to be supported as an artist or as a creative. So a lot of creatives took in the hit because this hit was rippling all over. And we realized that many people struggled for a while before we took our power back. And I think this is one thing that I love about the Kenyan music industry, for example. Earlier on, we had Blinky Bill by talking about Mungu Halali. And something that makes me really proud as a Kenyan creative, for example, is how we are putting Kenyan art back to the essence where it belongs. Because for a long time, there was a lot of complaints, oh, we don't have Kenyan music, oh, Kenyan art scene is dead. But is it really dead? It was dormant. There was a lot of activities ongoing, but it only needed you to be a creative enthusiast, somebody who is passionate. Then you will know this kind of event or this kind of gig is going on somewhere else or at this particular place on this particular day. But without that, you would hardly know. But now we are seeing people are recognizing that actually we have very good music, we have very good artists, and we have very good acts that are coming up. Recently, we lost one very good artist and creative, Charlie, rest in peace. And we saw that, yes, this person has always been recognized all these years. But then again, when we turn around and we say we do not have very good actors in Kenya. So I think we really need to highlight how we respond to tragic situations, how we respond to unfortunate or events or incidents that befall us every now and then. Every now and then somebody dies. Remember that. Every now and then somebody loses a job. Every now and then somebody is sick on a bed, needing care, needing love, needing attention. And this is something that we can do through one of initiatives as Power Radio, because this is how we amplify our voices. This is how we reach you. You in our sitting room, you traveling up country, you in your business, in your points of sale, you going about your journey, going about your life, your day-to-day on a Wednesday morning. We reach you because we know the power of the creative industry, and we know the power of mental health as it ripples through every other aspect of human life. And during COVID, we were not just shown how low life can get, but we also shown how resilient we can be, how adaptable we can be, how sizable we can, because it's like a sculptor. You sculpt yourself to fit in a situation. And this is something that made us look, what are we doing to respond to mental health? How are we amplifying the voice? How are we recognizing that, yes, it is okay to have low moments sometimes, that it's okay to lose a job sometimes. It's okay to not have enough money to put your kids to school. It's okay as a creative who is the firstborn, who is the breadwinner, and madhe anakukol kutoka home. Your younger siblings are in school, they're sent back home because of school fees. You are struggling, you're just off college, you have not gotten a proper job, your productivity is very low, and you're feeling like you don't belong, you're feeling like you're not good enough, or you're feeling like your voice is not given recognition, or it's not acknowledged. This is not just an issue of self-doubt. It's something that many creatives go through, and many people generally, because at some point in life when you have been hit severally over and over, you get to start questioning yourself, am I good enough? Can I take the next hit? But we do realize 4 years later that we can actually take hits and we can come back better and more resilient. We can come back better with better lessons, with better insights, and we can come back with a better road path to take, because this issue is going to recur every other day. Like I told you, every other day something is happening. It might be tragic, it might be a beautiful story, it might be something in the middle, it might be something we do not have any description about yet, but something is always happening at any given moment in somebody's life. And this is why we are looking in terms of the people we have lost during COVID. Rest in peace to every person we lost during COVID. I know it was such a tragic loss. To an extent, I think we were having this conversation some time ago, and we were looking in terms of how it almost created apathy. Remember, if you have lost people, you kind of tend to numb down, and we could see how there was I think, let me refresh your memory a little bit. There was this clip of a man in Siaya who died of COVID, suspected, yeah? And the way he was buried, and this is something that I usually find very troublesome when it comes to symbolism or just generally linking ideas together. People say that he was buried like a dog, but I think sometimes even a dog, because of how dogs do serve a certain intimate part, purpose in our lives, because they are security, they are pets, they serve a purpose in our lives. Even them, they deserve dignity. So the way he was buried, he was thrown into the grave without a casket. There was no prayer. There was nothing. And the family was thrown further apart. Don't come near, And I think, yes, there was a high risk of infection. There was a high risk of, there was a risk concern. There was a health risk concern, yes, by the people who were given that duty. But then again, they should have done it better. There's something that closure gives people who are grieving, and dignity. And that's why we have funeral arrangements. That's why we have burials. That's why we have memorials. And we come together and say, I knew this person. I knew Mondi was such a kind person. Oh, I knew Mondi, but yeah, he was such a troublesome person. So when we say that, we give ourselves closure, but we also reflect in terms of our relationships with these people, in terms of how we have experienced their journey, how they have impacted our lives. And so if we give them dignity, we also give dignity to the grieving. And it's very important that when somebody is down, like when, for example, when they are grieving somebody they love, a loved one, then we are supposed to offer comforting thoughts. We are supposed to create a space that involves or takes care of their grieving thoughts or their heart or their pain, just to let them know that they are not alone, And you, the listener, you are not alone in your grief. You might have lost somebody during COVID, somebody important to you, a loved one, a friend, a parent, a child. We lost so many people during that time. And their memories are not gone entirely. Their memories tell us that we can rise back again, that they had hope for our country, that they had better wishes, that when they were struggling with ventilators in their mouth and noses, they hoped that our facilities, our health facilities, particularly public ones, can be responsive to the needs of our country, especially during emergency situations. That medical services can reach mashinani, that we do not need to travel to KNH or Moi Teaching Referral or Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Teaching and Referral Hospital in Kisumu to get medical services and attention. That we can actually empower our local dispensaries to respond and to our needs. And we can also have a prompt situation where we do not only wait for something to happen, that's when we respond to it. I think that's such a bad way of coping with life. And this is what we are spreading across mental health and grief. Yes, we know that at some point somebody will struggle with something mentally or emotionally or psychologically. This is a crisis. It will happen to you. It will happen to your loved one. But we do not need to wait until it happens. That's when we start to figure out, now what can we do? Sasa tufanye aje? Sasa tufanye. And this is something that I had a lot of issue with when the former president kept on telling us about it. The former president or the presidency, the office of the presidency, is our first line of defense. And when such a person, when such a key institution says, sasa tufanye aje, unataka nikusaidie aje, then that creates or ripples an effect of disillusionment across our people. It actually exposes how vulnerable we are, how badly in shape we are in terms of how we can respond to these issues. And so we are giving a call out there that it's high time we destigmatize mental health. It's high time we empower our people. We train our psychologists and psychiatrists. It's high time we actually look at the creative industry, because one thing that is very, very, very true for the creative industry walitushikilia mkono. I wouldn't lie. From the skits, from the comedy skits to TikTok reels, to Instagram reels, to to those behind the door sessions. I don't know if you remember BN and Ben Soul. There's a lot of creative artists who actually did shows from their bedrooms, from their living rooms. And there are actually artists who say, we will not wait until the lockdown is out. We will create wherever we are. And there's also a lot of music that was created. There's a lot of art that was created, visual art that was created to actually commemorate that particular moment. And they serve as a strong pillar in terms of making us remember. Because one thing that we have as a nation is collective amnesia. We forget a lot. And when you forget where you have come from, it's very unlikely that you will make better decisions wherever you are going in the future. So if we look back, we also have to look ahead and look at the now. Where are we as a nation? Do we still mock those who are suffering? Do we still take advantage? For example, I've seen a lot of people make or put a public spectacle, for example, on mental health, that they're suffering, but indeed they're not suffering. And then they take advantage of the empathy and the love that people throw at you. While these people are also sacrificing on themselves. They're sacrificing the little money that they have so that they contribute towards your cause, that they can support you. So we ought not to take advantage of very kind voices or very kind thoughts and support that is coming from people around us. That we ought to not forget where we have come from as a nation, particularly how resilient we can be, particularly how responsive we can be towards each other. That we do not see each other as competitors. We see each other as collaborators. We see each other as fingers on a hand. We do not have the same size. We do not have the same length or strength or agility, but that is what brings us together. That is what makes us put one foot in front of the other. So in remembering COVID-19 in terms of mental health and grief, we send our hearts out to those who have suffered losses of any kind, but those who still stand and say that we can be a better nation and we can move forward with the hope that this country can be better and our community can thrive during crisis, when we put strategies and when we put measures and when we are more kind to each other. I'll put in 2 songs and we will be back with our discussion as we wrap up. My name is Omondi Chuka and this is Power Morning Drive.
Power Radio. Tune in and power up.
Truth label.
Betting ni ya wachache, mega jackpot meshinda yote, painting mwanamke hadi kutembea ni talent, kabich, karat, catwalk tadhani model, a rich, haga, round soft ile body perfect. Nilikukicha idhaa ya fast ukani kari hapo Karen, na cheka ucheki ba kwani mimi ngaza weni gani, hacha starter ianze, unashanga kwani ni aje, okay rewind kiasi kawa miura ukangware, but this chilly Monday morning lilalisha extra snoring. Sikusikia la mguu ya 4 na lalisha 444. Fast forward niliamka 8, skip breakfast nisi late, fika mboka true slave, pitia bypass body ache, juu ya njaa so on the way nika grab cup ya coffee rate, speedy java baku check, bidi plan zangu kuchange.
Kuna wengi lakini mwendo unafaa, blow my vision when you bala, kilo kipita na tabasamu, baby nasema unanibamba nayo kiuno na ulivopanga shanga, sema unanipa mahanga, sema unoshanikanganya,
ukizitoka unanibamba, ukibonga unanibamba, walk the walk unanibamba, talk the talk unanibamba.
nitetee, kweli tembee, nimbembeleze, mweleze, aniletee, mpakache, mpapase, situkate mpaka jasho nikupe matamtam, kukamata kupe mate nikupe maham. From the corner to the kitchen floor, let the fire burn. Just get off, looking less, cause you're dealing with the best, oh yes. Got them anybody's a no man, even no ma. Mama body, girl, game over, take over. All over your body, let me be a soldier, game over. Kuna wengi lakini wendo nafaa, bila umevisha wengi bala, kila ukipita na tabasamu. Baby, nasema unanibamba nayo kiuno, ulivopanga shanga. Sema unanipa mahanga, sema unaushanikanganya.
The flies kwa hizi streets, come nikupe real love. Mi ndio king, umenifanya soft, hivi sijai feel. Umefanya player hang boots, nikupe ring. Malkia, vile unanukia, vile unavutia, nishaingia. Ngozi laini mkauna uganga na maziwa. We ni mrembo walai umebarikiwa. We ni mtamu, githeri na avocado. We ni mtamu, kuku kienyeji na chapo, pilau na rojo, kasembe na nyamcho. We ndio final, ishafika mwisho. Beats, baby.
Your kind of music, all day, all night, right here on your only station, Pawa Radio.
Fine, just like wine, shaded from the Nile, cherry red, full of glow, gushing through the globe, splashing as you shows. Everybody know, all in all, want that dose. Empress by your mother, number one, giving back to many through your loins, still I come. Nations far and wide, heaven is your womb, creator of the universe. You are the Empress, fire number one, Moko got to one, Gikombo back the can. Chum kaki chum, tek kaki tek, rien kaki rien, in the chain me wallet. They try to break me with our religions, adulterating all our traditions, minusing we from the equations. But my black still a magic, popping up a juju. My lips, my calves are your religion. My hair, eyes are no alien. Breaking the ground, come me as a car. No need commendation. Black queen, not you are the Empress. Fire number one. Moko got to one. Gigombo but they can't. Chum kaki chum. Tek kaki tek. Rien kaki rien. In the chain me wallet. Empress. Fire number one. Sama go changa ping. Amila boni. Wachum kaki chum. Tek kaki tek. Rien kaki rien. In the chain me wallet.
Your kind of music, all day, all night, right here on your only station, Power Radio.
A very good morning. My name is Omonde Chuka and this is Power Morning Drive. Today we were reflecting on COVID-19 4 years later in terms of where have we come from, where do we go from here, and what lessons lie in between. Now we are having a discussion in terms of key areas of how COVID-19 has not only affected us but also taught us or gave us lessons that we can use to navigate the path ahead. Now, I don't know how many of you were affected. Unaweza tuambia pale X on hashtag Power Morning Drive. But COVID-19 created a ripple effect that affected households, industries, and sectors in our economy, in our country. And while we celebrate those that have thrived through the years and mourn the job losses or the unemployment that has skyrocketed since then, or how it has economically impacted our livelihood, we also need to examine how the implications of COVID-19 still are taking stronghold within our midst. And I know I've talked about it slightly before. Many people lost their jobs. Many people had to move from one area to another in search of a slightly affordable renting places, number one. Many businesses closed. Many businesses, by the I'm very sure if you walk pallet out on many shops are empty. Shops that were there pre-COVID. And because now they couldn't sell anymore, some of them even tried online selling, but it couldn't work and they had to close shop. And this, you see, a business is kind of like an organism. It has parts. A business person has parts. And these parts reflect further beyond themselves because they have employers, they have people who supply them, they have people within the global supply chain, they have people that are directly hit when this business is affected. And this is what we are looking in terms of what are the policies that are in place in terms of response or cushioning, especially micro and small and medium enterprises when such cases happen. Because this is the backbone of our country. Let's be honest. Very few of us are in the 9 to 5. Very few of us are formally employed. Many of us are informally employed. Many of us actually right now, particularly the youth, are in the gig economy. Many people know the gig economy. Unapata gig leo, kesho haiko. Pata gig leo, for 1 month, hakuna gig. Bro, utafanya nini? Because bills have to be paid, life has to go on. Imagine. So what do we do to actually be more innovative? Especially, particularly, I'll tie this point to education. COVID-19 affected our education. Even right now, as a tutor, I still have classes that I teach online. This is something that was long overdue, but because many universities and colleges were a bit hesitant, how do you teach online? So they left it for Odell. Odell is open and distance learning. And right now, we're having even an open university, something that has been, I think it has been replicated. Nigeria has one. Very many countries have such institutions that are purely online. You can actually just go and attend a class online. You can have a repository, you can have an archive where you can just download your reading materials. And this is not something new from what I've learned. There is a particular historian, a Kenyan historian called Levino Pio, who has been highlighting some people who first got education from as early as 1950s. And we're learning there are a lot of people who learned by correspondence. In other words, they learn online. Ni vile tu hakukuwa na gadgets back in the day, but they learned by correspondence. They used to get reading materials via posta, or these reading materials were sent to them, and they used to go pick them, study, do an exam, send back the papers, they're marked. And this is something that can actually happen. It's only that we need to be innovative to reflect modern society. For example, I've always felt that posta keeps on making losses. Posta lies, yet it has rented spaces all over the world. In our home country alone, there is Sondu, there is Katito, there is Paponditi, and these are rented spaces. They pay rent every other time. So if Posta could actually be restructured to do logistics. For example, we know the courier business is such a lucrative business. Every other day, somebody is sending something to someone. Whether you could pick up mtaani, ama ikue like mtu amebuy dress mali, dem amebuy dress anataka atumanishie madhake, ama ako tu Kitale ama Eldoret, ama ako Coast anataka alibuy stuff from Nairobi, an online shop in Nairobi, based in Nairobi, and they need to get this. So we need to really diversify our economy. That's number one. How do you diversify our economy? By, first of all, we need to learn where is our training coming from. And when we train our students, when we train our people, when we train our workforce, what are we aiming to address? That's number one. And then number two, we need to move from the fact that knowledge is supposed to solve a situation. Sometimes we realize from COVID-19 that there were a lot of people who had a lot of knowledge, but they were very helpless. But knowledge has to empower you to be a certain person, to be a certain individual. That if you have a certain knowledge and the other person does not have, you have a key duty and responsibility to uplift this person, to empower this person, to expose their perspective on this particular issue. And this comes to governance, this comes to social justice, because a lot of people didn't know that they were being violated. Umetoka job, first of all, you're a nurse, umefanya double shift for almost 18 hours, you're very tired. You unaenda mtaani, and then there's akuko number 3, by the way. You meet police, they beat you up to pub. Umetoka happy? And this is also in terms of how, particularly our security forces have to be really human. We understand they are upholding rules and regulation. They are at the core of a law and regulation. But then again, they need to be human. They need to be empathetic. You need to look around and see what time are we living in? What time is it now? Where are we as a society? And if I'm interrogating this person, there's potential they are actually breaking a law. But why is that so? And then you also need to treat people with dignity. That, okay, yes, they're broken a law, but there's a way you can treat them with dignity while still upholding the law. This is something that we hardly talk about. We are only used to policemen being very brutal, very brutal and very unresponsive. You tell them this, they don't want to hear about it. They look at you, uko na rasta pale mtaani, you're a criminal. Umetoka wapi sahi? So we need to really be upfront with our training and look at how do we train our workforce so that it can respond well. We have a plan, we have a hope, we have a vision for our country. They say it's Vision 2030, but I think now we probably might make it 2050. But we have a vision as a country, where we want to go. And if we want to build a holistic society that is kind, that is productive, that is thriving, then we also need to train our people to respond to the needs it has. So I think this is one of the things that affected education sector, from moving to physical learning to online learning, from underscoring how innovative we need to be. Because now we were learning that there are some courses, ziko too, but they're not very useful to us. That's number one. And then number two, yes, we are training these people, but they are ill-equipped. They don't have equipment. They don't have, they're not adaptable to the current situation we have. Because we can be having a curriculum, yes, but if it does not reflect our situation on the ground, wanasemaga kwa ground vitu tofauti. So if we cannot help the situation, especially at grassroots level, then we are missing a big opportunity of bettering our country. That's number one. That's number two, sorry. Then number three, we also look in terms of how can policies align to empowering or capacity building businesses, especially those that are small. Zile zina-emerge too. Zile mahasla mtaani. And because we know that mahasla ndo wana run the nation. Yes, there is a very small percentage. Wanasemaga 10 millionaires and 10 million beggars. Very sad and tragic maxim. But then again, if you look at it in terms of spreading that million cake, spreading that icing on the cake, then we need to look in terms of tapping into the informal sector, making use every individual in our country, because a lot of people just live through life. They exist. And because, like we've talked about it earlier, mental health and grief, many people, after being hit over and over, they get to just lose hope. Just get to lose hope, man. You had a potential before, but now you feel like, I've tried all I can. So just move through life. And yet you have such a huge potential on your head. You have such a kind heart. You have such brilliant ideas with you. And if these brilliant ideas are not given space to thrive, then they die with you. And that's one of the tragic things that a country can do to its citizens when you kill the dreams, when you kill the hopes and aspirations of your own citizens, of your children, when you eat your children, when you cannibalize them and you have them left with no hope. Because when our imagination is in crisis, then we are totally in crisis. It means we cannot project our next move. It means we cannot think of what we need to do for our country. They say, yes, we need not to ask always what the country can do for us. Now we need to ask ourselves, what can we do for the country? But yes, while the sword cuts both edges, we need to also stand in the middle and look, where have we come from? Where is the shadow casting us? Because we need to have policies that are aligned. We need to have policies that can cure the ills that can be cured strategically. And then also we need to empower our people. Right now we have the youth and a lot of people dealing with identity crisis. They think, oh, I cannot do this business anymore. Nimejaribu sana. Hii business na kunywa tu do. Unaeka mita moja imeenda. Unajua hii mita pia ulitoa kwa bank. So banki after 1 month watakujia wanasema, but they ulisema after 1 month utakuwa fiti. So do imeenda hivyo, uko na familia, watu wanakutegemea, kuna help mahali, hawezi kula. So things are really tough. But if we instill a sense of a resiliency, I keep saying the word resilient. I love the word resilient because I think that human beings can adapt to so many things, more than we imagine. Kuna vitu unaonanga on the face value unasemaga, siezi survive hii shit. Sorry to curse. But if we can move further away from it and learn that if our environment is safe, if our environment is responsive, if the taxes can be utilized well, if the government puts in fiscal and monetary policies that are actually aligned with moving our country forward, if the wastage through corruption and funds embezzlement can be curbed, then we can have a society that is responsive. We can have a society that is thriving. And this is because we recognize that mashida, tabu hazitaisha, they'll always be there. Something will always be dealing with something at any given moment. One hand is dealing with the other and the other is dealing with the other. It's a very interesting time to be alive. At one given moment, your hand is never free. You hold one and the other. Kuna fee mahali, kuna bill, kuna health, kuna pia kuna aspirations zako as an individual. So at any given moment, your hand is always holding something and it's busy and you're just only one person. So that actually introduces a very important thing. When we collaborate, when we dialogue, like we're doing on Power Radio, when we share ideas, this is how we make better ourselves. This is how we build our resiliency factor. This is how we know that actually we can survive when we are together, not in competition, but with each other, together with each other, holding hands. Because hands that are held together are better than the ones that are fighting. If one is fighting the other, it's just a very harsh, situation. There's a harsh environment where nothing thrives. And it's like a desert. It's nothing thrives out of there. It's just sand. But if we come together and if we are more responsive, if we are more compassionate, I introduce a very important word, compassion. Because during COVID, a lot of people were compassionate, the nurses, the medical doctors, support services, the farmers, the neighbor somewhere Mali. Amekuja kanao kumwambia, nilikuwa nataka tu kujua kama bado uko. It's very important, these small but very important conversations. They seem little on the surface. They seem very little that we are having a show today talking about COVID, looking at the rearview mirror, looking at where we want to go. But they're not so little whatsoever when we look a bit from a grander scale of things. We realize that it's the small little acts of kindness, the small little acts of service that makes us who we are. It's the conversations that we have. It's our stories when we share them through art, through work, through whatever expression of our daily lives. That is what makes us a better nation. We'll have 2 also songs before we wrap up our show. This is Power Morning Drive. Talk to us on Twitter or X or any other social platform.
From sunrise to sunset, all day and night. Power Radio.
My baby, Makbada, Makbadi, what Koda, Monda Kalkodi, Wodaska, of your guitar, or when you're so more, all what your home.
Nyati odonki, Jabero Somo, Fashionista, Hero Japesa, Fashionista, Onyonya Kati, Wawinje Buruko, Gio Hero Japesa, Gio Hero Japesa, Gimabel Biro, Makbada, Makbadi,
Nafinity atiminade Magimane na nyisi pokitimo Madel bende tiyo kodende Kamano Imane na nyisi pokitimo Imane na nyisi pokiwacho Imane na wacho pokinyiso gi To jiolal Weteber Wetetek
From sunrise to sunset, all day and night. Power Radio.
Power Radio, and this is Power Morning Drive. My name is Omonde Chuka, your host today, and we were talking about the reflections of COVID-19 4 years later on. As we wrap up the show, that was Mandela of the infamous Sarabi Band by Kulundeng. The track is called Kulundeng. There's a line there that's very important to me as we wrap up the show. He says, Gimabed Biro, Makbada, Makbadi. In translation, a good thing is coming. Hold my hand as I hold your hand. And this reflects on the whole entire show as we reflect on COVID-19. It is our holding hands. It's our sharing of ideas. It's our coming together. It is our collaborative efforts that have put us where we are today, without which we would have probably perished. And I think that is the essence of where we are going. Where do we go from here? From creative arts to business sector to industries to healthcare to wellness to our response to daily happenings or events in life. When we hold each other's hands, that's when we are strong. Not when we are apart, not when we are fighting, but when we recognize the perspective of the other, the knowledge shared from the other. The differences do not make us weak. They inspire a hope to strike a middle ground because that is our path. And as we reflect on COVID-19 and the tragedies that we have suffered from then, we do not see only our low moments. We also see the moments of our triumphs and victories. And as we go forward, I wish you well, you and your loved ones, you and your community. Please be sure to know that your efforts do matter. Your voice matters. Your dialogue, the daily dialogues that you have with Mama Mboga pale, mkiwa pale block, pale base, it matters. Reach us on Power 254, Power Radio, Power Morning Drive, and we wrap up the show. Adios until next time.
Your kind of music, all day, all night, right here on your only station, Power Radio.
By force and justice without mercy, so help me, spoken word. Juu nimechoka kusikia Kenya is corrupt. Kenya si buildings ni wewe. So kutoa hongos blame systems ni wewe. The blame politician na blame voters.
Simkata kuchoose good leaders to a time election. Kenya said hatuna good leaders, tuko na bad voters, and will continue to suffer till come to notice good leaders are not defined by their mother tongues, but their character. Na nana believe Kenya tulipata independence. Na uliza swali, nana believe Kenya tulipata independence? Mina believe we are in the second phase ya ukoloni. Jumashamba bado tunanyang'anywa, watoto watu bado wanauliwa, tunashikwa ndani kwa makosa si zetu. But this time around, si ndio tumechoose kuwa slave. Cause bad things happened, cause good people are silent. Quote this, you don't need to be so much educated to know a good leader. All you need is a common sense. And I think I've heard this statement before. Good leaders are not defined by their mother tongues, but their character. And I think I've heard this statement before. My problems are caused and can be solved by a politician. Wrong. Your problems are caused and can be solved by you voting wisely. I'm not a wise man, I'm just speaking my common sense out. Na siliwambia, hii piece ni tragic, hii piece ni magic, hii piece ni historical. So I cipher, I hear swear by, I'll bring peace by force and justice without mercy. So help me, spoken word.
From sunrise to sunset, all day and night.